Hello and welcome to my Everything I Knit in 2023 podcast. My name on Instagram is Orchid's Heart and I live in Birmingham in England, and today is a really lovely sunny day in mid-January. So we've had a couple of sunny days, I'm absolutely loving it. It's obviously freezing because the sky is clear, but I'm so happy to see the sun and for being able to record videos in some sensible lighting situation. Yes, so I've already said Happy New Year to you guys. I think by the time you see this video, it might be 3/4 of the way through January, because I did pop a video on last weekend, so I'm going to aim to share this next weekend. So this is, I think, everything I knit last year. Because I did make a video at the beginning of last year where I shared the plans of what I intended to knit, and so I've had a bit of a look at that and ticked off what I did manage to knit and what I've knit instead. And I did have a bit of a list going on my phone with targets where I was checking things off. So I think this is fairly accurate, but I'm sure there are things I've missed. And I've not bothered factoring in the things I haven't finished that are still works in progress. So I don't know how all over the place this video is going to be, because I made the video last year at the start of the year with all the things I was wanting to knit that year, and then in the autumn I made like a what I want to knit this autumn video, and so there were some slight differences because obviously I changed my mind about things, and obviously I didn't knit everything on the list, and obviously I cast things on just, you know, because at different points as well. So we'll try and keep this organised, but I apologise if it becomes semi-organised chaos. There we go. So let's start with garments. So at the start of last year, I decided that I was going to knit the Fairy Ring cardigan by Katie Greenbean as a pullover, the Eastwind Jacket by Emily Foden, the Alpenglow jumper by Andrea Mowry, the Wool and Honey jumper by Andrea Mowry, the Lento pullover, can't remember who it's by, as a cardigan, I'm just going to steek it, the Tegna, which is like a summer top, the Minimalist cable cardigan by Carina Spencer in a cotton merino mix, and that was everything that I had intended to make at the start of last year. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 garments, which is quite a lot. I did not knit all of those. So let me share with you what I did knit. So the first thing that I'm going to share was a beast of a project, and it did take me a lot of the year. I can't actually remember when I finished it. I definitely would have started it, I think, the year before, so 2022. And that's the Eastwind Jacket. So this is a jacket. It's got cables on the front. It's got cables down the back. And I think the original pattern has more of a neck that lies flat rather than this neck that kind of funnels up. It's got long sleeves, it's got an all over texture, it's got pockets, long rib on the cuffs. And yeah, it's a gorgeous squishy knit. I knit mine in Manchelopis, which is an unspun yarn. The contrast colour edging is Lettlopi because I found it really difficult doing a long tail cast on with Manchelopis. Lettlopi is also unspun, but I think has a longer staple length and is a bit of a tougher yarn because it's Icelandic, whereas Manchelopis is much softer. So the mane is knit with Manchelopis held with a strand of mohair. I did, however, run out of my mohair, could not get any more when I was about here, so it is a bit darker further up, but you can't really tell. So yeah, that was that one. And I made a few modifications on the shaping for the neck, which you can watch my video all about the Eastwind Jacket, because I modified the neck, the pockets, and the placket down the front, because a lot of people said that it curled a lot, and so I made a few modifications. But I talk about my whole process of knitting it and everything I changed and how it sort of all came together in a special video just about the Eastwind Jacket if you're thinking about making it. I love this. I actually don't wear it outside that much, but I wear it inside all the time. It's become kind of like a house coat. It's so warm and cozy. It's got quite a lot of positive ease, so it fits over all of my clothes. And yeah, I think because it's been raining so much outside, it's not been terribly practical to wear as an outdoor coat. But because our house is quite cold, and I work a lot sitting still, it's been quite useful at home. But having said that, I might wear it as a coat today because we're having such a sunny day and I am going out in a bit, so I might put it on over my dungarees and be nice and cozy. So that was probably the biggest thing I knit last year. So the next thing on my list, so I didn't knit the fairy ring, I didn't knit the Alpenglow, didn't knit the wool and honey, I did knit the Lento, but I did not steek it. I knit it as a plain pullover. So this is the Lento. The Lento is knit with a 4-ply or fingering weight yarn held together with a lace weight fuzzy, but I think it's knit at a bigger gauge than DK. So I knit mine in 2 different colours of wool yarn. I think one of them might have had some Angora in it actually. One was like a yellowy colour and more was more brown. And I held them both, I striped them, so I don't know if you can see because it's quite subtle. They're in quite wide 10 stitch row stripes, and I held throughout with a hand-dyed variegated suri alpaca, which had very similar colours plus a few more warm tones by Nervus Fibre. And I'll put the colours and all the details below. And I did originally knit it with a contrast collar and cuffs, but I didn't like it. It was like really strong contrast. I quite liked this like melange of grungy colours. Now I live in this, so it has worn quite a lot. I'm thinking it definitely is in need of a de-pilling session at this point, but I'm going to confess I wear it over my pyjamas and I wear it in bed, which for a hand-dyed alpaca jumper seems incredibly luxurious. But because of the gauge of the project, it's really light. It's less than 300 grams. It might be like just over 200 grams. So it's very light. And because of the alpaca, it's really, really soft. So I can wear it next to skin. And just in the evenings when I get cold, I really enjoy wearing this over my pyjamas. Now, don't get me wrong, I do wear it out the house as well. But I actually do wear this nearly every day. So it's getting so much wear. And it's very cozy. And it's quite a nice light jumper if you're someone who maybe works in an office or works somewhere, or you know, your house is warmer. I feel like this is quite a good pattern because, you know, it does knit up quite quickly. It is quite sort of light and breathable, but I do wonder if that's also why it's pilled so bad, because the gauge is so loose. Worth thinking about. Most of my other knits tend to be a lot denser. I mean, this is the complete opposite. This is a dense Lettlopi Icelandic yarn jumper, and you know, it's completely different experience. So yes, that was my Lento. And then the next thing on my list that I intended to make, which I did make, was the Tegna by Caitlin Hunter. So I've been wanting to knit this for years. It was actually one of the things that was on my make list from before I knew how to knit that motivated me to want to learn to knit. Now, bizarrely, considering how much I wanted it in my life, I haven't actually worn it that much. And I think that's because I'm still kind of working out how it will fit in my wardrobe, because I wear a lot of skirts and dresses and I don't like the way it looks with skirts and dresses. I much prefer the way it looks with jeans. And I don't wear those that much. So yeah, this is the Tegna. It's got this lace detail at the bottom and it's knit bottom up, which means you do the complicated bit first, which is great because if you make a mistake, you know, it's less trauma to rip back and start again. But you know, it was easy to follow. If you've done lace before, it's really not that bad. And then it's knit in the round up until the armpit, and then you knit flat, and then you do the shaping for the top bit, and then you do the sleeves in the round. I think I struggled picking up stitches for the sleeves neatly. I had to do it a couple of times. I think my sleeves came out a bit bunched the first time. So to get it to lay smooth I had to do it a couple of times. And I knit this in the 4-ply by Viola yarns in the colour Slate, I believe. And it used, I think, just under 2 skeins. I probably knit the second size, but don't quote me on that, I'm not sure. So yeah, I should maybe try and start wearing this a bit more in the spring. Or maybe to work actually. I should make an effort to get that out more. So I think that was all the garments I intended to knit. Sort of. I don't know how early in the year, but at some point I agreed to knit my mother-in-law a Maja cardigan. Now I don't have the one with me that I knit for her. I think I did share it in my last video though, or the video before. But I do have the one that I knit myself to kind of just illustrate what the pattern looks like. So it looks more or less like this. Hers was knit in the same colours, but I knit hers in a yarn that was much softer. It was the Gilliatt by Durem Natura, and so it's not as hairy. This is more like Lettlopi and Plutolopi and things like that, but it basically looked the same. And so this is a free pattern on Ravelry, the Maja cardigan. It's knit in the round and you steek it. If you've not knit it before, there's no information for how to do the increases on the sleeves, which is really nice and confusing. You kind of have to fudge it or not do them, up to you. You know, or you could do them maybe just in the grey bit if you're really stressed about that. But so I knit her the Maja cardigan. It took me from September until right before Christmas, and she absolutely loves it. So that was another garment I knit. And then I knit 2 others that I didn't plan to knit at the start of the year. So one of those was a cropped jumper, which needs a bit of depilling on the back, it looks like. And this looks really good with these dungarees actually. So this is the Laax pullover by Caitlin Hunter. And I definitely did a video where I talked a bit more about this because in short, I don't really recommend the pattern. The fitting of it as per pattern is dreadful. Mine is quite drastically different on the top of the yoke. I had to cut a lot of it off. And so I did talk a little bit about what I did and how I managed that in that video. I will try and do one of those pop-up things that tells you which video that is. And I knit mine in the colourwork colours are Yarnadelic by John Arbon. And the main colour, I think, is the BFL in the colour Fossil by West Yorkshire Spinners. And it's kind of like a DK weight light Aran pattern. And even though I would never knit this pattern again, and it was absolute hell on earth, to do the yoke, like once I got past the yoke it was fine. Not to do the yoke, for it to fit normal human proportions, sorry. And I am being harsh about it because, you know, loads of people had fitting issues, and again I talked about this at great length in that video, and the pattern's never been updated. There's actual mistakes in it, it never got updated, and I just don't think that's acceptable for a paid for pattern. But I love it, and it is one of my most worn jumpers, so I'm also like, I'm really glad I persevered because I love wearing this. Both of these yarns are really soft, next to skin soft, and I wear it tons, especially with high-waisted things and dungarees. I do think that the sleeves might have gotten a bit shorter because I did aim for them to be kind of this length, and I think they probably are a tad shorter now, but it doesn't annoy me enough that I want to deal with it and lengthen them. I do have more of the blue yarn, or the blue grey, but can't be bothered. I still wear it tons as it is. And so the last garment I knit, which I was wearing in the last video, is my Oversized Seasons Sweater Cardigan by Ozetta, which I think is half fisherman's rib, and I knit mine in Gilliatt yarn. And it's got these wooden buttons on the front, which I did stain to be a bit darker, but I think it's kind of worn off. So there we go. I mean, it has gone through the wash, so no surprise there. And I think though the yarn has bubbled, it has held up quite well because I do wear this a lot. But I shared in my last video that because you knit the button band at the same time as the rest of the cardigan, it doesn't have that much structural integrity and it is stretching out. And a few people have suggested crocheting a chain on the inside. So I'm definitely going to do that at some point because I think I would wear it even more if it didn't keep falling off my shoulders. So that's something that I'd really like to change about that to make it a bit better. Someone also suggested sewing a ribbon down the inside of the button band. So I think I'll start with the crochet chain. If that doesn't work, then I will try the ribbon as well. So yes, so that's all the garments I knit last year. That's 2 cardigans, a jacket, 2 pullovers, and like a summer top. That's an immense amount of knitting. I'm actually quite surprised. I mean, some of these I did start the year before, like especially the Eastwind, but I am actually quite surprised that I knit that much. They feel so cozy. I'm making a nice mess. So that's my biggest projects. That is probably more than half the knitting I did last year, I would say. Everything else is much smaller. So I had very ambitious shawl plans last year. So this section will be shawls, except it's going to be quite short because I didn't do very well. So I had intended last year to knit 2 colour crazed shawls, one in Natural Sock by Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company, her mini skeins and some cone oatmeal yarn that I had. And then I wanted to knit another one using, you're not going to be able to see it, I can grab it. I have this absolutely beautiful jar of like merino 4-ply and singles like yarns that are just, you know, small bits, really gorgeous colours, leftovers, by some really nice dyers like Viola, Villaine, which is a French dyer, what's the other one, Lichen in Lace and things like that. And I was going to knit a colour craze in like those moody sort of pastel colours as well. As you can tell by the fact the yarn's in the jar, I didn't do it. I was going to knit the Var Shawl by Nina Pomeranki. I was going to knit the Satellite Shawl by Andrea Mowry, which I have the yarn for, but some of that might have been incorporated into something else now. And a Scrappy Vertices Unite. I knit one of those, 1.5. So the one that I did knit was, I'm sorry, I think I just moved the tripod. I think you're okay. The one that I did knit was the Var Shawl by Nina, A Crafter's Tale. It has this textured stitch, which you might be able to see, and then it has this hem on the bottom, and so it's all inspired by catkins. So there are these little bubbles, which you might not be able to see on the camera, which are supposed to be like catkins, and then you can see the catkin theme more clearly on this border. So you knit starting from here, back and forth, and then you do, you know, like most of it, and then you knit the catkin border the other way, sort of picking up on the live stitches. And I knit mine in an absolutely gorgeous yarn, which I think, it definitely had Gotland in it and something else, and it's naturally dyed by the Isle of Skye natural dye company, who also used to be called Ozetta. Sorry, it's absolutely covered in my hair. And this colour is stunning, and the yarn just feels absolutely gorgeous. And the yarn was a present from when I went on holiday with my partner to Scotland, and we did go to the Isle of Skye, to be honest, mainly to go to this shop, because they do have a shop which you can visit. I don't think it's always open though, so you do need to be a bit careful, but they do sell online, and the yarns are just stunning. I am kind of moving away from naturally dyed yarns because I find that a lot of my naturally dyed garments aren't lasting colour-wise, they fade. But there are some dyes, indigo based, I think indigo, madder, cochineal, which is crushed up bugs, and other things, they tend to have quite a long life, and they're colours that, you know, we can find examples of garments from years and years ago that still have colour. And I knew that this one was an indigo based colour. It would be indigo, which is blue, over dyed with something yellowy to create this green. And it does say on the tag what colours we used. I think this was woad and indigo, which are, no, woad is blue as well. Maybe it was yarrow, I can't remember. But I think this will be quite a stable colour because of the indigo. And to be honest, I can't see any difference. I've had it over, well, for the year, and I've worn it loads and it's not faded. So I think it's been a good naturally dyed yarn to use, and I just love it. So, and the pattern was a delight. I think there might have been a mistake in the first section with the numbers, but it was fairly obvious, so it was easy to rectify. I am halfway through my colour craze shawl with the natural yarns, not obviously the ones in the jar, and I think that's going to be one of my priorities this year to finish, because I'm not actually that far off. So there we go. I might pick that up soon. But otherwise, I did not knit any other shawls. So there we go. That didn't go well. I did intend to knit some other bits, which was a cowl in Nutiden and a hot water bottle cover. Knit neither. The hot water bottle cover I ended up sewing and quilting instead out of linen. And the cowl in Nutiden I didn't knit because I was really struggling to do a stretchy cast on with the Manchelopis, and Nutiden is even softer, and so I thought that's not going to happen, and it needs to be stretchy if it's a cowl to go over your head. So I thought, well, I can't do that with that yarn, so that's not going to happen. And so I just remember there was something else I've knit which isn't on here, so I might have to show you a picture. And so I thought I will wait until I've learnt to spin a bit, because then I could spin a bit of the Nutiden and do the long tail cast on with that instead. So I feel like that's going to be a project for this year, because I have now got an electric spinner and I might have a bit of a go trying to spin some Nutiden, hopefully. So those didn't happen. I did knit instead, in terms of other bits, I did knit a tank top, which is the thing I've forgotten to share with you. So it was the Gondor vest by Fable Knitwear. So I'll put a picture in here. And I knit that in Wild Wool by Erica Heusser in the colour Poodle. And I really love it, but it has got quite a lot of negative ease, and so it is quite tight. Probably should have knit a bigger size. But yeah, I have worn it a bit this autumn. And it's quite a nice pattern to wear over something with big sleeves, or like a collared shirt or something. So hopefully you can see that there. Sorry, but it did take me forever to knit because it's rib and I hate knitting rib. Around the same time, I did also knit my Secret Crop by Jessie May Designs in a Grenouille Fibre sock yarn. I knit mine a bit longer, but it's obviously still cropped. Don't really know what else to say about it. I used an entire sock, 4-ply sock yarn skein held double, but ran out and had to use a mini skein for this front ribbing and the straps. Luckily, it's quite a similar colour, it's by the same dye, it complements it quite perfectly and doesn't really stand out too much. I actually think that a DK weight tank top isn't for me. It was quicker to knit than a 4-ply weight one, but I think a 4-ply weight one is probably more wearable. And if I'm going to knit more crop tops, I ought to just persevere and do the 4-ply, which I have no patience for, so probably won't happen. Another thing which I knit, which had been on my make list for years, So it wasn't really a cast on whim, but I don't know why it wasn't on my main make list for the year, because it was something I really wanted to knit. I just think I forgot. And that was the Underwing Mitts by Erica Knight. Not by Erica Knight, by somebody. And I knit these in mini skeins, also by Grenouille Fibre Co. The dark grey black skeins is actually two different from two different dye lots, so they are slightly different. But you know, they work fine, and I absolutely love these. And I just remembered, I do have another knitting. One of my more recent projects, which again wasn't really a whim cast on, but wasn't on my original plans, was this set, which I haven't trimmed the ends off yet. So this is a pattern by Emily Foden, and it's the Persephone mittens and the mitten liners. So I knit these in, so the blue yarn is a yarn by Telling Yarns, and it is the Resolute base in the colour Sky Ross, and the mitten liner is a mysterious laceway alpaca and a strand of mohair. So they fit perfectly inside each other. And I've been wearing these quite a lot because unfortunately I did lose one of my Lettlopi mittens. And so this is the only full pair of mittens I have at the moment. But they're really pretty. And I actually found them quite quick to knit once I got going. I did have to go down a needle size because I found the gauge too loose and the mitten too big. But once I did that, I found the project quite easy. And I do think the mitten liner makes quite a good just basic mitten pattern. You know, there's no ribbing, it's really easy. And sometimes I do just wear just these. Another accessory I knit from the Knits About Winter book, which is where the Eastwind and those mittens came from, is the Sky Hill hat. Now this feels absolutely gorgeous. I knit it in a strand of mohair left over from the Eastwind, some random yarn from John Arbon that was in their mystery mini skein bin, and some naturally dyed Welsh mule by Nellie and Eve. So it's kind of like this marley purple colour, but it's too small. It's just a bit tight on my head. And I was thinking about it this morning. Trying to unravel the whole thing might be a bit difficult because of all the ends. Because there's lots of different pieces of yarn in this, and so there are ends woven in lots of different places. But I don't know if I could unravel to before I started the shaping and knit it a bit longer, and then maybe it wouldn't feel so tight. I don't know. Obviously I've got my hair tied up, so this looks ridiculous. It is just very tight on my head, because I was thinking I'd frog the whole thing and re-knit it, but I don't know if because of all the woven in ends that's even possible. So I'm going to have to try and see what happens. I don't know. But it's really thick, it's really gorgeous. I think I need to go up a needle size, really. Ideally I would unravel the whole thing and go up a needle size just to make it a bit bigger. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I do really want to wear it. I don't want to gift it. I mean, it does stretch out quite a lot, but for some reason when it's on my head it feels really tight. I did try to block it out, but I don't know. If you've got any suggestions, please do share. The last two accessories I knit were, I think I did knit two, but I gifted the other one. Just a simple Sophie scarf. And this is knit in Kinross 4-ply in the colour Scots Pine. So that's just a very basic, simple like neckerchief. Don't really have much else to say about that, other than the Kinross 4-ply yarn is stunning. Thoroughly recommend. And then the last accessory I knit was the Storm Hood by Albiona McLaughlin. And I knit this in leftover Manchelopis from my Eastwind Jacket, but because again I couldn't do a long tail cast on with the Manchelopis, I did a sort of just cast on with some scrap yarn from something else. And I haven't worn this at all. I'm really annoyed because I knit it because Cat Weaver wears hers with her Eastwind Jacket and her Unarmoured Defence cowl, and she looks cosy and amazing and warm and lovely. And so I thought I would wear this on walks and stuff. And I don't know if it's because when it's been quite cold this year, I've not been very well. But even when I was up in Yorkshire, I didn't wear it. So I don't know. Kind of a shame, really. I thought it'd be perfect for wearing over a hat for that extra warmth. But I haven't worn it, so I don't know. Bit of a shame. So that's all the accessories that I knit. Okay, so let's talk about socks. Where's my list gone? Here we go. Socks are one of my favourite things to wear. I love socks, and to receive as a gift, I think socks are amazing. So I think I only intended to knit I think I only said on my video that I was going to knit 2 or 3 pairs of socks, but I definitely had intentions to knit more pairs of socks than that. I think I said I wanted to knit the fairy ring socks, some scrappy socks, and maybe that was it. But I did know in the back of my mind I also wanted to knit some socks out of a yarn I was gifted and some retro looking socks knit out of John Arbon. And so I've done quite well with the sock knitting. I knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 pairs of socks. So I did knit the fairy ring socks. So, sorry, my hair gets everywhere. They have this nice colourwork mushroom section. It is supposed to have white dots on the mushrooms, but I never actually ended up doing that. And I knit mine in almost the recommended yarn. The main greys are Drover by Daughter of a Shepherd, which is a bit of an expensive yarn, but it's really rustic, only 10% nylon, and I used a lot less than was suggested. I used 1 skein of the dark colour, and then I used a little bit of the lighter one, which I also used on another pair of socks, and I still have a bit left. And then the contrast colours are just all ones I had in stash. The red isn't a sock yarn, it's left over from a hat I made. The white and the dark green are both Exmoor sock by John Arbon. I think the white is the one that she is the right one, and then the green is much darker than the green she uses, but I could be wrong. And it has got like a flea stitch colourwork section down to here. The original pattern actually had it all over, but I couldn't be bothered trying to navigate the gusset decreases with the colourwork pattern. So I love these, I wear them all the time. They're very warm and cosy because of the woolliness. Love them. I think another pair that I had intended to make and did finish were these ones. These are, I think these were my Christmas socks for last year, but I think I might have finished them just after Christmas. These are the Tegna socks by, I think, Laax. And they've got this colourwork pattern with trees. The original pattern does not have a gap between the bottom of the trees and the heel, and I think it might be a different heel shape. But I wanted the trees to be visible over my boots, and so, or at least most of the trees, so I knit a plain bit before doing the heel flap. And I knit these using, so the contrast colours are from Grenouille Fibre, and then the main colour is Ha by Nervus Fibre, and it is a sock yarn. And I think they're really pretty. And then another pair, which I had intended to knit, they were on my mind, but I don't think were on my list, were, and I'm sorry because these have all been washed, they're a bit scrunched up. This one's easier to see. Just a plain sock in some colourful yarn that a friend gave me. I think duckling yarns or something named after a duck. And it was 2 50-gram skeins. One was quite variegated and the other one less so. And so I sort of colour blocked, striped them. I thought it would be more obvious, but it's actually not. They have pilled a bit because I've worn them quite a lot. And then I did a contrast cuff. So yeah, wear those quite a lot. And then I also knit, and these are worn quite badly actually. These are knit in the Woolly Mammoth Hearth sock, which is like a sport weight sock, with a strand of mohair, and it's like a 3x1. And these are quite chunky. They are a bit on the big side for me, so they're definitely more of a house sock. And I did the toes and heels in Amble by the Fibre Company in the colour Fair Hill. So they're a bit felted on the bottom. So it's an almost nylon free sock. There is a bit of recycled nylon in the Amble, but not in the main body of the sock, but there is the silk from the Knitting for Olive mohair. So they're more of a sock to wear over another sock in the house because they are a bit big. I didn't intend for that to be the case, but they definitely need depilling. Yeah, very bobbly. And then the last pair I knit were these scrappy colour block socks. The yellow is Amble again by the Fibre Company, and the dark purple is Exmoor Sock by John Arbon. So that's the teal and toe, the heel and toe, and the lighter purple is Leftover Natural Sock 4-ply by Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co. And again, these came out a bit big, so these are kind of house socks or second layer socks. And that's everything I knit, I think, because I remembered the vest and I shared that with you. So other than a couple of works in progress, which is a shawl, a jumper, and I think 3 pairs of socks, that's everything I knit. So yeah, I mean, I've shared with you what kind of worked and didn't work. My hat is obviously too small. The cardigan falls off my shoulders. Haven't worn my hood that much. Do wear all my accessories other than the ones just mentioned. Yeah, love my jumpers. I'm overall quite pleased with what I knit. I'm actually quite surprised at how much there was, because especially in December, I almost stopped knitting. So I'm kind of shocked at my own productivity. I don't think I'm going to knit that much this year because we've got quite a lot going on. But that's okay. That's not the goal. My goal this year, I think, and I'm going to make a video about my more modest knitting goals for this year, is to try and aim for less and enjoy some other pursuits as well. Kind of did aim for that last year, it didn't happen, but I'm going to try and push for that a bit more. So yeah, let me know if you've got any tips of being less addicted at knitting. Probably not, because that's why we're all here. And yeah, and let me know what your favourite project is, or if you might cast any of these on, like if you've seen any and thought, actually, I'd quite like to knit that. I'd be really interested to hear. So look forward to seeing you in my next video, which might be knitting plans. It might not, we'll see. Depends what I feel inspired to record next. So thank you very much and have a good evening, afternoon, morning, night, whatever it is for you. Goodbye.